Napoleon Bonaparte lived from 1769 to 1821. He was known as one of the greatest military commanders in history and changed Europe irreversibly. He's a controversial figure, and many label him as either a hero or a tyrant. Either way, his impact on Europe will never be forgotten. Napoleon's rise to power, his role as emperor, and the impacts of the Napoleonic Code in Congress of Vienna develop his image as either a hero or a tyrant. Napoleon was born on the island of Corsica to an unassuming, noble Italian family. He enlisted in the French military and served as an artillery officer for a volunteer army. After defeating the British during the siege of Toulon, he was made a general and caught the attention of the Committee of Public Safety and was given command of the French army at Italy.
Napoleon defeated the Austrians several times before succeeding in an invasion of Austria and forcing them to concede defeat. Following this stunning victory, Napoleon then led a war against the Ottoman Empire in Egypt. Napoleon continued to prove his merit as a leader with a few decisive victories, but the war as a whole was generally more of a failure than his Italian campaign. Regardless, Napoleon was now seen as a French hero, and on his return to Paris, he began to make his mark as a politician. Upon returning to Paris, he found the country in bankruptcy and disorder. Conspiring with other leaders, Napoleon overthrew the Directorate and appointed himself first consul with two other consuls who acted under him. Rewriting the constitution, Napoleon remade France with the appearance of a republic whilst it was actually a dictatorship.
In 1804, Napoleon drafted a new set of civil laws that revolutionized the French legal code, and his Code Civil would have a great influence on future European law reform. He took what were a set of antiquated local customs that had been around since feudalism and replaced them with a more modern and consistent set of laws across France and their French colonies, promoting stability and order throughout his empire. The code established visibility in law, banning secret laws or unfair rulings, as well as prohibiting judges from deciding on cases or throwing out cases because of ignorance. It put in place rules based around common sense as it preached the concepts of equality and freedom for all men. Unfortunately, Napoleonic Code also restricted rights for women, making men dominant over women and children. Napoleon spread his civil reform with conquest as he forced countries he defeated to adopt his legal code. But even after Napoleon's defeat, the Napoleonic Code's influence can be seen as a basis of many future legal codes around the world.
Napoleon named himself lifelong consul in order to cement his power, but he still faced assassination plots. Due to these plots, in 1804, Napoleon was crowned Emperor Napoleon I of France by the Pope, establishing himself as the one true ruler to France. Now it was time for France to become a power in its own right. The War of the Third Coalition was fought against the Holy Roman Empire, the UK, and Russia. France defeated them, and the Treaty of Pressburg broke up the Holy Roman Empire, creating the Confederation of the Rhine. Later, France fought in the War of the Fourth Coalition, which gave France more land and power, as it shrank Prussian land and created the continental system. After Napoleon's successful peninsular campaign in Iberia, it seemed that France's power would never cease to increase.
The War of the Fifth Coalition started in 1809. After Napoleon defeated the Fifth Coalition, the French Empire reached its peak extent. France ruled most of the European continent with a population of 75 million people. Even with this massive empire, Napoleon wanted to control all of Europe, and Russia was the only country free from his influence. In May 1812, at the height of his power, Napoleon invaded Russia with 650,000 men. Napoleon's army took over Moscow. However, the Russian winter proved to be too harsh and Napoleon was defeated. The army returned to France with fewer than 30,000 people. Sensing an opportunity in this historic defeat, a number of European countries re-entered the war. This time, Napoleon did not manage to find success and was defeated at the Battle of Leipzig. The victors decided to exile Napoleon to the island called Elba. Years later, Napoleon returned from Elba and waged war for another 100 days before being defeated at Waterloo. Napoleon was then exiled to St. Helena, where he died years later.
The Congress of Vienna lasted from September 1814 to June 1815. This conference had leaders from the great powers of Austria, Britain, France, Russia, and Prussia. Clemens Wenzel von Metternich was the Austrian chairman of the Congress. The leaders from these European countries thought it was necessary to create this Congress after the problems left from the French Revolutionary Wars and Napoleonic Wars. There needed to be a balance of power in order for there to be peace. The main goal of the Congress was to prevent any one country from becoming the most powerful, like France did under Napoleon. The Congress of Vienna paved the way for further similar meetings and established a precedent for European politics for the next 100 years.
Before Napoleon rose to power, France was plagued by widespread chaos and death. When he was made emperor, Napoleon brought the peace and order that France needed. But while Napoleon started as a hero, and the Napoleonic Code had long-lasting beneficial effects to Europe, Napoleon was imperialistic and tyrannical. He established himself as a dictator in France, and his ambition was unquenchable. Napoleon's need to conquer all of Europe led to unfathomable bloodshed, and anyone whose hubris cost the lives of millions is undeniably a tyrant.